Chapter 18. No, I can't tonight, buddy. I was just on my way out the door. It was the next night. Melissa was preparing to drive to Paul's. She adjusted the phone on her shoulder as she attempted to brush her hair, which had decided to pop up on both sides like two airplane wings. No, I really can't, she said, trying not to sound annoyed. Why did Buddy have to sound so concerned about her every time they spoke? They couldn't have a normal conversation anymore. All he did was worry about her and ask questions to find out if she was back to normal, if she had stopped seeing ghosts. It was all so annoying. Why couldn't he just believe her? Maybe we can go out tomorrow night, she said. I'll be staying there while my parents are in Las Vegas. I really have to go now. And she hung up the phone. She stared at herself in the mirror. The two wings of hair had dropped a little, but they still wouldn't lie flat. Maybe I am crazy, she thought. Driving off past the old village to that horrible neighborhood to see that creep. He's just going to tease me and say I'm coming on to him again, and it's going to be very unpleasant. If he doesn't listen to me, is it possible that I really am going to kill him? No, no way. No way I'm going to kill anyone. Not Paul, not anyone. No matter how many times she assured herself, there was still a lingering doubt in her mind, and the only way to get rid of that doubt was to talk to Paul. Melissa parked the car in front of a fire hydrant, locked it, and climbed the steps up to Paul's front door. It was a cool, crisp night, almost cold, a preview of autumn nights to come. Somewhere down the block she could hear the steady thud of a basketball bouncing off the pavement, and the excited shouts of a playground basketball game in progress. She looked for a doorbell, but not finding one, knocked loudly, louder than she had intended. Steady, girl, she told herself, glancing nervously down the block. She pulled down the sleeves of the shady-side high sweatshirt she was wearing over straight-legged jeans. She knocked again, and waited. The house was dark. He isn't home, she thought, both disappointed and relieved. What would I say to him anyway? She had tried to rehearse in the car, but hadn't been able to come up with anything that didn't sound totally stupid. She knocked again, then leaned over the side of the stoop to peer through the dust-smeared front window. No one coming. With a loud sigh, she turned and walked down the concrete stairs. She had started to unlock her car when she heard laughter at the end of the block. At first she ignored it. She started to slide behind the wheel when she heard it again. She thought she recognized Paul's laugh from that night at the dance club. She climbed back out of the car. It was a short walk to the corner. Why not see if it's him? Walking quickly along the cracked sidewalk, she came to a small liquor store on the corner, a neon sign in a window proclaiming Aldo's. A narrow parking lot stood at the far end of the store. Illuminated by a low street lamp, three boys were leaning against a red Malibu in the parking lot, laughing and drinking from brown paper bags. They turned immediately when they saw Melissa come into view and stopped laughing. The boy in the middle, sitting on the front bumper, was Paul. She stopped at the edge of the parking lot. Paul stood up and a smile crossed his face. He recognized her. It was too late to go back to the car. Look who's here, one of the other boys declared, putting his paper bag down on the front fender. Melissa recognized Frankie, the boy from the supermarket. She didn't know the third boy, the one with the bad skin. You following me, Paul called to her, straightening his dark hair. The other two boys laughed. No, wait, man, she came to see me, Frankie said, punching Paul on the shoulder. Paul swung around angrily and glared at Frankie. Frankie backed away. Just kidding, man. Chill out, okay? Paul swayed unsteadily as he walked toward Melissa. She realized he must have had a lot to drink already. I wanted to talk to you, she said, staying on the sidewalk near the street lamp, not going any closer. She wants you, Paul, the other boy said. She wants what you've got, man, Frankie added. The two boys laughed and banged their open hands on the car. Paul ignored them and kept walking slowly, unsteadily toward Melissa. He had an odd expression on his face, almost a challenging expression. Melissa stood her ground, determined to say what she had to say, determined not to be frightened of him. He looked so much like his ghost, she thought, a crazy thought. He looked like his ghost, but without the tenderness in his eyes, without the boyishness. Hey, he said, stopping a few inches in front of her. The light from the street lamp reflected in his dark eyes and made him look pale, almost ghost-like. You didn't answer my question. You following me? I told you I wanted to talk to you, Melissa said impatiently. Oh, I see, he smiled. His breath smelled of beer. He held up the can in a bag and offered it to her. Want a slug? Melissa shook her head. You look like you've had a few already tonight. Why did she say that? She was so nervous, she didn't know what she was saying. Who are you, my mother? He snapped, tilting the can over his mouth. He finished the beer, then tossed the bag onto the pavement. Listen, Paul. How'd you know where to find me? Paul, if you just let me... How'd you know my name? How'd you know where I was? What do you want, anyway? He smiled, more a smirk than a smile. You don't have to answer me. You want to go somewhere quiet and have a talk? He grabbed her wrist. The two boys in the parking lot cheered. He glanced back at them, tightening his grip on her wrist. Let's lose those guys, he said, pulling her. No, let go. He didn't let go. Hey, you came to see me, right? Yes, I have something very important to... Stop, you're hurting me, Paul. Her protest only made him laugh. No pain, no gain, he muttered, and laughed as if he had made a very clever joke. Please, let go. Come on. Still holding her wrist, he pulled her close to him. You want to talk? We'll talk, Melissa. Just the two of us. He pulled her away from the parking lot, away from the street light, into the dark. No, she thought, where is he taking me? I can't let him. I've got to get away. She pulled back, staring into his face, and froze with fear. He looked so angry, so out of control. Chapter 19. I know where you live, he said suddenly. What? Melissa wasn't sure she'd heard correctly. I found your house on Fear Street. That's what I want to talk to you about, Melissa said. You found my house, right? He was twisting her arm. She wasn't sure if he realized it or not. So I found yours. That's fair, don't you think? Melissa gave a hard tug and pulled free. Hey, he looked confused, disoriented. Melissa realized it was the effects of the beer. They were standing in front of her car now. She began to feel a little safer, a little less frightened. I want you to leave me alone, she said. He laughed. That's why you came to see me. He put his hands in his jeans pocket, then took them out. He didn't seem to know what to do with them. Please, don't laugh at me. I'm very serious. I want you to leave me alone. Stay away from me. Stay away from my house. It's very important. A car roared by, tires squealing. The radio blared through its windows at top volume. Paul leaned toward her. I don't get it. I really can't explain, she said. I'm just warning you. You're warning me, he exploded. Warning me? You come to my neighborhood. You follow me. You're warning me. You don't understand. It's for your own good. Just stay away from Fear Street. She knew she wasn't getting through to him. She knew all along that she was bound to sound stupid. I just want to be away from here, she thought. I just want to melt away, disappear. Don't worry. I'll wipe my feet before I come to your street, Paul said bitterly, staring past her. His face turned angry. He called her an ugly name, then turned and started back toward the parking lot. Please listen to me, she called after him, feeling like a fool. But what could she have said? What else could she have told him? That his ghost had come to her? That his ghost was trying to keep him from getting killed? For sure, that would really make the right impression on him. He's so tanked up on beer, he probably won't even remember that I was here, she thought. That idea didn't make her feel any better. Suddenly feeling very tired, she climbed into the car and headed for home. Paul's ghost warned me that I wouldn't get through to him, she thought. He was right. The next evening, Della called just before dinner. Oh, hi, Della, Melissa said, trying to pull on a t-shirt and hold the phone at the same time. I'll be over right after dinner. I'm all packed for the weekend. I have so much to tell you about. I've been dying to... There's a slight hitch, Della interrupted. I'm still at my cousin's. I got hung up here. I won't be able to get back to Shadyside till tomorrow. You mean? Melissa couldn't hide her disappointment. Think you could stay home tonight and come tomorrow? Della asked. I'm really sorry. No problem, Melissa said. But I don't think I'll tell my parents. They'll only worry. I'm really sorry, Della said. But at least we'll have tomorrow night and Saturday night. You'll be okay, won't you? Sure, Melissa told her. Besides, she thought, I won't be alone. Paul is here. Della apologized a few more times. Then Melissa said goodbye and hurried down to dinner. I'm really worried about you, Melissa, Mrs. Dryden said, plucking a red thread off of Melissa's white top. Dinner was over, and her parents were just about to leave for the airport. Mother, I'll be fine. Really. Melissa sat down at the bottom of the stairs and watched her father struggle to close the suitcase. Pushing the side of it didn't seem to help. Finally, he sat on it and successfully managed to bring the zipper all the way around. Well, what with this Fear Street prowler still around? Do you have to bring that up? Mr. Dryden snapped, wiping his forehead with a white handkerchief. Melissa isn't even staying here. She'll be with Della. So why do you want to make her nervous? I don't, Wes, Mrs. Dryden said, searching the front closet for something. I just said I was worried. There was a story in a paper yesterday about that prowler. He broke into a house just down the block, and the woman was home and surprised him. I really don't see the point of discussing the Fear Street prowler now, Mr. Dryden told his wife. He buckled another suitcase and turned to Melissa. You will remember to lock both doors, right? Right, Melissa said, rolling her eyes. When are you going to Della's? Are you packed? Her mother asked. Yes, I'm packed. That was the truth. I'm going over there soon after you leave. That wasn't quite the truth. Well, we'll call you tomorrow, Mrs. Dryden said. Mother, I'm not 10 years old, you know. I really can manage. Where are my golf clubs? Mr. Dryden demanded, pushing his glasses up on his nose, spinning around to survey the room. Golf clubs? Melissa's mother looked as if she'd never heard the words before. Oh dear, you did say something about golf clubs, didn't you? Mr. Dryden slapped his forehead in an exaggerated manner, sending his glasses slipping down his nose again. Hey, I thought this was a serious conversation, Melissa teased. It is serious, he said, heading to the den closet to get his clubs, and I intend to get in some serious golf. It took nearly half an hour to load everything into the car. Finally, they drove off, after giving Melissa a few more warnings, reminding her she could call her Aunt Kate if she had any problems, and telling her for the 1200th time where they had written down the phone number of the hotel in Las Vegas, where they'd be staying. Melissa watched them back down the drive, then, giving them a final wave as her father honked the horn, she closed the front door and locked it. All alone now. Even Marta had left, gone to Cincinnati to see her brother for a few days. All alone, except for a ghost. She felt jumpy, nervous, butterflies in her stomach. How silly. It was so quiet. That was the problem. It was much too quiet. She walked into the den, searched through the stack of CDs, and put one on the player. Music flooded the room, loud, pounding dance music. She danced across the floor by herself for a few seconds. She felt like dancing. Where was Buddy? They could go back to Red Heat and dance till they dropped. Then she wouldn't feel so nervous. Red Heat made her think of Paul and his friends out in the parking lot. The loud music was making her nervous. She danced over to the CD player and shut it off. What should she do? Watch TV? Maybe there was a good movie on. She picked up the remote control, clicked on the TV, and started speeding around the dials. Hey, Tom Cruise and Paul Newman! She'd seen the movie at least twice, but she started watching it again. About half an hour later, she turned it off. There were too many commercials. Every time she started to get interested, they interrupted the film for 5 minutes. Now what? She paced back and forth in the den, but that was only making her feel more nervous. This is crazy, she thought. I'm an intelligent person. I should be able to entertain myself for one evening without going nuts. She got a Coke from the refrigerator in the kitchen, then went up to her room to read in bed. She set the Coke down on a table beside the bed and started to get undressed, then stopped. Hey, Paul, are you here? There was no reply. She walked around the room, checking to see if there was a spot of cold air, a sign that the ghost was there. Paul? Where was he? Wasn't he at all interested in what she had told Paul, and what had happened the night before? Paul, are you here? Where did the ghost go when he wasn't there? Did he just fade into nothingness? Or was he always around, always watching her? Did he watch her undress? That idea was sort of exciting. Maybe he's here watching me now. Paul? She decided to close the window even though it was so hot. She pushed it down all the way and locked it. Outside, she saw that it was a clear night, hot and still. Nothing moved out there, not a tree leaf. It was so still it looked unreal. Feeling strange, she took a long sip of the Coke. I'll just go to sleep, she said aloud. She looked at the clock. It was 11:30, early, but she could probably fall asleep. She got changed into her father's old pajama shirt and slid under the covers. The bed felt warm, too warm. She kicked the covers down to the foot of the bed and turned out the lamp. She closed her eyes, tried to relax, but it was too hot. With a loud sigh, she climbed out of bed, walked over to the window, unlocked it, and pulled it up halfway. There was no breeze at all, but at least to let a little air into the room. Back in bed, the sheets were damp from her perspiration. She punched and prodded her pillow, trying to get it right. I can't sleep in here, she decided. She got up and, without turning on a light, padded across the carpeted hall to her parents' air-conditioned room. Yawning loudly, she pulled back the bedspread and climbed under the soft, cool sheet. The bed felt big and safe. The room was dark and fragrant from her mother's perfume. She felt snug and safe as a little girl. She drifted off into a dreamless sleep. The noise woke her up. The digital clock on her father's bed table said 12:13. She sat up, confused at first, uncertain of where she was. The noise again. A scrabbling outside, against the side of the house. Something moved behind the window curtains. Melissa knew immediately what was happening. Someone was trying to open her parents' bedroom window. Chapter 20. The Fear Street Prowler. Melissa dropped her feet to the floor but didn't stand up. Was this really happening? She heard the scrabbling sounds again, and a loud noise that she recognized as a ladder being banged against the clapboards. It all seemed to be happening in slow motion. She looked at the clock. Still 12:13. Time wasn't moving at all. She suddenly felt as if her heart had stopped too. Frozen at 12:13. I've stopped breathing, she thought. I can't breathe. I can't move. No, this isn't happening. I can't let this happen to me. She forced herself to stand up. She took a deep breath, then another. Paul, she called to the ghost in a quavering voice. Paul, help me! No reply. With a trembling hand, she reached over and turned on the lamp on the bed table. Maybe that would discourage him. Maybe the light would make him go away. She stood there, frozen by the bed, watching the window. Go away, go away, go away. She saw an arm reach up from outside the window and push the window open. Then she saw the long black hair, then the denim jacket. He stepped easily into the room, the curtains billowing behind him. Paul? He brushed off his jeans and scowled at her. Was it the ghost, or was it the live Paul? I told you, he said, staring into her eyes. I told you I knew where you lived. It was the live Paul. Get out of here, Paul, Melissa said. She hadn't moved from beside the bed. Get out of my house. She realized she was only slightly relieved that it was Paul and not the Fear Street prowler. Paul looked dangerous as any prowler. And he looked so cold, Melissa thought. Cold and calm, not the least bit nervous about breaking into my house. He stepped to the center of the room. His dark hair fell over his forehead. I told you, he repeated. I told you I knew. Please, Paul. I'm not good enough for you, huh? Let's not talk about it now, okay? She backed away from him until she was against the wall. You've been drinking, and I just want you to go. But I've come to show you how good I am. His mouth formed an ugly smile, a cold, menacing smile. I'm good enough. Really, I'm real good. Paul, I'll call the police, he snickered. I'm too fast for the police. Go home, Paul. Go home, and I won't tell anyone you did this. I'm all alone here, she thought suddenly. I'm all alone in this house with him. She had stood up to him, till now. She could feel the bravery wearing off, feel the terror taking over. He could do anything, she thought, watching him come toward her. She remembered her vow to the ghost. I would never kill you, never, never, never. But watching the smirking, cold-eyed Paul approach, the words seemed empty, false. What if he tried to kill her? Would she fight back? Would she defend herself? No, no, no. This can't be happening. I can't kill him. But what if... Come on, Melissa. No more teasing. No more games. Tonight's the night. No, go away. I mean it. Just turn around and go back out the window. But I'm good enough for you, Melissa. You'll see. I'm real good. He spoke quietly, but his eyes revealed excitement. Every word sounded a threat. Suddenly, a picture flashed into Melissa's mind. The pistol. The little silver pistol. It was right there in front of her, just a few feet away in her father's night table, waiting for her, waiting to protect her from Paul. No, no, no way. She wouldn't shoot it, of course. She would only use it to frighten him away. She was so alone, so totally alone. Did she really have a choice? Was she about to make the ghost prediction come true? I don't care, she thought, her emotions swirling, staring at Paul, reading the hatred in his eyes. I don't care. I have to protect myself. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. No, no, I can't. She stood frozen against the wall, at war with herself, watching him approach. Then, without even consciously making the decision, she dived forward and pulled open the slender drawer. There it was, waiting for her. The small pistol seemed to shine in the lamplight. She hesitated for only a second, then she grabbed it. It felt cool in the palm of her hand. Paul grinned at her from across the bed. She raised the pistol, and his grin slowly faded. Get out, Paul, she cried, her voice trembling. She held the little pistol with both hands to keep it steady. Get out right now, I mean it. Whoa, babe. He raised his hands, as if in surrender. Out? Get out. She took a cautious step toward him, pointing a pistol at him, studying his face. Wow, is that a real gun? He was making fun of her. It's real, she said. Please, just leave. He stared into her eyes and slowly lowered his hands. He seems to be thinking it over, deciding what to do. Go now, and I won't tell anyone you did this, Melissa repeated. She gestured with the gun toward the door. Go, please? I'm begging you. But he didn't leave the room. Instead, he walked up to the queen-sized bed and, with a quick, frightening motion, grabbed the bedspread and tugged it off the bed. He let the bedspread drop to the floor and, stepping over it, ran his hand over the smooth, pale blue sheets. Paul, what do you think you're doing? He smiled at her, his hand still on the sheet. Nice bed, he said. So fancy, so clean. I'm warning you. Come over here. Why don't you and me? He patted the bed. She uttered a low cry and ran to the door. She didn't have a plan. She just knew she had to get out of there. He moved quickly and blocked the doorway. Melissa couldn't stop herself. She ran right into him. You're not going anywhere, he said, grabbing her by the shoulders and shoving her back. She stumbled, startled by the force of his push, but caught her balance against the foot of the bed. She gestured with the pistol. Out! Get out! Her voice revealed how terrified she was. He had blocked her path and shoved her. What else would he do? He took a few slow, casual steps toward her. Go ahead, he said, an odd smile on his face. What? Go ahead. Use the gun. Shoot me. Melissa kept it pointed at his chest. Think I won't? He took a step toward her, then another. Go ahead. Use the gun. Go ahead. Paul? No. He came closer and closer. He was laughing at her now, challenging her, daring her to shoot him. Come on, girl, shoot me. Use the gun. Let's see you do it. No, stop right there. I mean it, Paul. But he kept coming, one step at a time. Her hand tensed. The gun was pointed at his chest, just inches away from him. All she had to do was pull the trigger, but she knew she couldn't do it. No, no, no. No way. She couldn't pull the trigger. She would never be able to pull the trigger. She started to lower the gun. No, I can't use it. Then I'll use it, Paul cried, and swung his arm up fast, startling her. He grabbed at the pistol. She tried to pull her hand away, but it was too slow. His hand missed the gun and slapped against hers. The pistol dropped to the carpet. They both stared down at it for a long second. Then they both dived to the floor, scrambling frantically to reach it first. Chapter 21. Ow! Melissa's elbow hit the floor hard as she dived. The pain shot up her arm as she reached for the pistol. I've got it, she thought. But with an angry groan, Paul shoved her away. The gun fell out of her hand and he picked it up. Breathing hard, his face crimson, he stood above her, waving the pistol in front of him. You rich snob, you're dead now. He kicked at her, but Melissa rolled away and climbed quickly to her feet. They stared at each other, breathing noisily. What good is all your money now? He cried. Melissa took a step back, eyeing the door. Put down the gun, Paul. Stop being so dramatic. You're not going to use it either. His eyes flared. Want to bet? He called her a stream of names. He could do it. He could shoot me. The bedroom door seemed so far away, and he was standing between her and the door. She held up her hands as if to say, Okay, I give up. His finger tightened on the trigger. He's going to shoot me, Melissa thought. I'm going to die now. She closed her eyes. When she opened them, the ghost was standing next to Paul. She blinked, thinking she was seeing double at first. Flickering in and out of view, the ghost stared first at her, then at Paul. No, I can't let this happen, the ghost cried. Paul didn't react. Melissa realized he couldn't see the ghost. He kept the pistol pointed at her chest. I can't let him do this to you, the ghost cried. Melissa tried to scream, but no sound came out. The ghost lunged forward and reached for the pistol in Paul's hand. Melissa expected his hand to sail right through the pistol, but it didn't. The live Paul cried out in surprise as the gun flew from his hand. With one quick motion, the ghost pulled the pistol away and tossed it toward Melissa. Hey, what the? Paul cried. The gun sailed across the room. Melissa had to jump up to catch it. As her hands wrapped around it, the gun went off. No! Her scream was as loud as the explosion of sound between her hands. Paul groaned loudly and grabbed his chest. A dark red circle formed on the front of the denim jacket. Oh no, he groaned. Not me. He dropped to his knees. Blood trickled down onto the white carpet. Holding his chest, he slumped face forward onto the rug. He didn't move. Paul? Melissa let the gun fall to the floor. The red puddle spread out from beneath Paul's body. Paul? Melissa ran forward, bent down over him, turned him over. Paul? He was dead. Chapter 22. Melissa stepped back from the body. She looked down and saw that her bare feet were stained with blood. Oh no, no. The ghost was right beside her, staring down at Paul's body. So that's how it happened, he said, his voice a soft, stunned whisper. But why? Why did you do it? Why did you sacrifice yourself? He didn't answer. Why did you knock the gun away, Paul? Why did you let me kill you? He stood so close to her, yet the air wasn't cold. I couldn't stand to see you killed, he said finally. What? But you knew I would kill Paul if you took the gun from him. Yeah, I knew that would happen, he said, turning to look into her eyes. but I couldn't let him kill you. I care about you too much." "I care about you too," Melissa cried. The ghost pulled her close and wrapped his arms around her. He pulled her face up to his, and they kissed. "I can feel you, Paul," Melissa cried. "I really can. I can feel you now." She reached for him, but he floated away from her, a sad smile on his face. He started to speak, but the words caught in his throat. I'm going, Melissa. I think I can rest now. I've been so unhappy, caught between two worlds, not knowing why, not knowing what happened to me. Thank God it's over." "But, Paul—" "I won't forget you. I won't ever forget you. Don't feel guilty for killing me. Don't ever feel guilty. You were the only one who ever cared about me. The only one." The words faded as he did. He was a shadow, then the outline of a shadow, and then he was gone. She stood staring at the spot where he had stood. She could still feel his arms around her, still feel the warmth of his lips, but she knew he was gone forever. It took her a long time to realize that someone was pounding on the front door. Who could it be this late? She stepped around Paul's body and ran to the bedroom window. She pulled it open, stuck her head out, and looked below to the front porch. "Buddy!" He backed up to the edge of the porch and looked up at her, illuminated by the yellow porch light. "Buddy, what are you doing here? How did you—" "Lissa, are you okay?" he shouted up to her. "I went over to Della's, but you weren't there. I got worried, so I came here. When I got out of my car, I heard a loud noise, like a gunshot. I was so worried." I'm okay," she called down. "I'm so glad to see you." She ran down the stairs and pulled open the front door. "I'm so glad you're here," she repeated. "I need help." She led him up to her parents' bedroom. He stopped short when he saw the body sprawled on the carpet. He grabbed her arm, his face filled with confusion. "Lissa, is that your ghost?" "No," she said. "That's not him. The ghost is gone, buddy. Gone for good. That's just some prowler." "I'm so glad you're okay," he said, putting his arm around her. "Thank God it's over." That's just what Paul said, Melissa thought. She leaned against Buddy as they walked downstairs to phone the police. This has been a Nightfall Audiobooks production of Haunted by R.L. Stine, a Fear Street novel, Book 6. Hi, this is Chris again with Nightfall Audiobooks, and thank you very much for joining me for my production of Haunted by R.L. Stine from the Fear Street series. This book was a lot of fun. I keep a small notebook next to my monitor, and I write down the character's name, and next to it I write down the name of the voice that I use for that character. And on this book, I almost wrote off the page. I had that many voices I was dealing with. I am very proud of this novel because I introduced not only one, but 2 new voices. I kind of gave them a test ride in this novel. I like them a lot, and I'm going to keep on using them. It's Buddy's voice, and it's Frankie's voice. I can use those voices reliably, and they have a little bit of range. I just get so tired of doing the same voices all the time, Time to change it up a little bit. Anyway, as for the novel, what a really cool idea, huh? Ghost comes back to haunt a girl. He's there too early because she hasn't killed him yet. So she's like, "Who are you?" And he's like, "You killed me." And she's like, "No, I didn't." So then she goes out of her way, goes to a library, gets a microfiche machine. Remember microfiche? She spends all day there trying to figure out when he died, goes through the last 6 months of the newspaper, and can find absolutely nothing. Then she goes over a friend's house because she has an idea. Maybe he doesn't go to Shadyside. And yes, someone did die last year, but it's not Paul. It was someone else entirely. So that's a dead end. Then she runs into Paul and his buddies while they're getting drunk outside of Red Heat. She goes back to the ghost and she says, "Well, why were you at Red Heat?" And he goes, "What are you talking about?" Then she realizes he's a future ghost. That's a really neat idea. Paul being the Fear Street Prowler makes a lot of sense too, because why not? Shadyside is divided up into 2 classes. You get North Hills, which is the rich and prosperous, and you get the Old Village, which is poor and run down. Fear Street tends to be in the middle. This is like the first book I've read where someone with a lot of money bought a house on Fear Street on purpose. It looks like they bought it just to renovate it and to fix it up and things, but they also hired a maid. The only other book that I have read that does this exact same thing is 99 Fear Street Book 1, and that they hire a maid right away. Like I said in the intro, I had some reservations about reading this story because it deals with a dead character named Paul, and I have an uncle who passed away also named Paul. I put this off reading that a long time because I didn't want to deal with his memories and things. But reading it was really good. It wasn't as hard as I thought it would be, and I think that my uncle would really have appreciated the story, and I think he would have had a lot of fun listening to it were he still here. I recommend this novel to anyone, not just anybody who's a Fear Street fan. It's way out of the ordinary. It's a lot of fun. It's scary. At the end of the story, where Melissa grabs the gun to defend herself from Paul, that is a rape situation, and she absolutely has every right to pull that gun to defend herself. Holy cow. What will he do? He broke into her home. He won't leave. He won't let her out of the bedroom. He takes the bedspread off the bed, pats the bed, and says, "Hey, why don't we, And she's like, "Oh my God, get out of here." And she uses the gun as self-defense. In her defense, she didn't really shoot him. She caught the gun from Ghost Paul, and it went off. Maybe it jostled or something. I don't know if that gun had a hair trigger. I don't know how sensitive the trigger was. Maybe she banged it with her finger, but she definitely did not point it at him and knowingly, willingly pull the trigger and say, "I am going to kill you now." It was completely self-defense. It was a total accident. And now when her poor parents get to their hotel room, they're going to get a call from the police and say, "Hey, your daughter went ahead and killed someone last night." So that's great. Anyway, I recommend this novel. It's a very short novel. If you want a good intro to R.L. Stine and to what he can do, this is a very good book. So what should I read next? I don't know. Send me an email, nightfallaudiobooks@gmail.com. I am also at home right here on YouTube at Nightfall Audiobooks. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe, and hit that join button to show your support. Any help is greatly appreciated. I really, truly do mean that. I also have a Patreon page, patreon.com/nightfallaudiobooks. So tell your mom, tell your friends, tell whoever you think would like to listen to me tell them tales from R.L. Stine. Thank you very much for listening, and I will see you next time.